Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Have a great crew today, all of three of us, which is great. Okay, and my crew here is Rick Curti. Welcome back to the broadcast, Rick.
Thank you, Scott.
And JB Ellis. Welcome back, Mr. Ellis. These two guys are going to be regulars on the Sports Exchange, and of course, we'll have George Eichhorn as well as other guests along the way. But I just want to make sure that we talk about the topic of the week. And tonight's topic of the week happens to be baseball. Maybe a little carryover from last night's 108 Stitches baseball talk with a little bit more and then some. So the title of the show is going to be Baseball. What am I looking at? But before I get into all that, okay, I don't want to let everybody know at the top of the show, there is to please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune on our YouTube channel or visit www.southfloridatribune.com. And then you can follow us on Twitter at Tribune South, and to advertise, call 954-304-4941. The audio portion of the show can be heard on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. So please, folks, go out there and subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, and then you can see us talk, get animated, whatever you want to do. And in many cases, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a pen and paper. You might just learn something. Our goal is to learn, educate, and go for it. So with that said, okay, JB Ellis and Rick Curti, you ready to roll?
Yep.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, as I mentioned before, the program here, baseball, what am I looking for? So obviously, JB and Rick, the game changed until the pandemic in the shortened 2020 season. Now, a lot of this stems for the criticism of Rob Manfred, who many claim is the worst commissioner. He's been titled an evil villain. I don't think I'd really go that far. You know, I've seen commissioners far worse than that, but won't get into that tonight. But during the pandemic, we saw 7-inning doubleheaders, the 3 batter minimum for relievers, which I don't actually think is bad because I grew up in an era of baseball where relievers actually pitched 2 and 3 innings. So for a pitcher to have to pitch to a minimum of 3, that doesn't really bother me. And the ghost runners to save pitching stats, or the runner starts at second base, I'm not so crazy about that. But we'll talk a little bit about the pandemic, and then we're going to discuss this topic. We know that during the full season, the 7-inning doubleheaders disappeared. The universal DH actually has become permanent. I think that's a move that a lot of people wanted for the longest time. And I think that one of the things, JB, when you wrote in your article that you felt that the ghost runner is running rampant with the game and it's losing the soul. I'll let you elaborate on those comments in a moment. I just want to make sure we get everything out there. And shortening the game times, obviously, is the key to saving baseball. I know we're talking about the spiral and the self-inflicting wounds of baseball as well. And, you know, again, the thing that's important that we talked about, Rick and I did on last night, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, is MLB is not doing a very good job promoting their major sports stars. And I think they're ranked number 3. I don't count hockey, which is a North American sport. So some of the things that we'll talk about the game, and we'll all break them down, is a home run strikeout fest. Yeah, that's definitely something I'm not too crazy about. We don't need too many more Rob Deers out there. It's feast or famine. Okay, Rob Deere was one of the biggest classic hit home run or strikeout. We talk about the shift analytics, although that's going to change because of the collective bargaining agreement next year. And, of course, we talk about the double switch being dead. Yeah, I don't see that as much anymore. And I know, JB, I love the line that you put in your article that you call it a 3-hour snooze fest of strikeouts, which you attribute to bad discipline. And then, obviously, long gone the hitter the other way. And, of course, the stolen base, you know, is becoming extinct nowadays. And you're talking about the old-fashioned way of bunting the runner over. And, of course, we all the batting averages are plummeting and the strikeouts are going up. So we all know that baseball is a glorified home run derby. I put all those points out there, okay? Now, before we get to those points, I had a chance to see the Florida State League game between the Jupiter Hammerheads and the Palm Beach Cardinals on July 4th, and they implemented the pitch clock. What am I thinking, NBA? You might as well think that it's NBA. The pitch clock and, you know, trying to speed up the game. And, you know, to me, I have a problem with the pitch clock anyways, because I don't want to mess around with the purity of the whole thing. And I know that they use a challenge system where they don't use robot umpires, but they allow each team to challenge 3 or 4 times and go from there. I wouldn't have a problem with the challenge system. So, all right, with that said, I've got it all out there for everybody to hopefully digest it. JB, why don't you talk about why you wrote this article and emphasize the key points of what you were trying to emphasize to everybody else out there?
So growing up, I mean, I grew up in Brooklyn, huge Yankee fan. Baseball, the number one sport, you know, I could have cared less. I would play basketball every Sunday, CYO. Didn't care I missed football. Didn't care about watching the NBA. College basketball was great, but baseball season, that's what everybody loved. You had your Met fans, the Yankee fans, we fight all year. You know, who was better? That's all we talked about. Nowadays, who talks about baseball? Who cares? Why is, you know, the most exciting sport that there was is just dying? It's hard to watch. You have guys that can't hit the ball the other way. They can't bunt. They're taking the game out of the manager's hand with the universal DH. You know how much fun it was to watch a game when you see a double switch and you're sitting there with your dad or your friend? Is he going to make that change? I would have put that guy in to pitch run and then, you know, have him hit. I would have put him into pitch. Now it's, okay, the DH is up. There's no pitch hitters. You don't have to worry about your bench. It's just not fun.
Well, I mean, I grew up in the 70s, and the designated hitter was implemented. One of the first designated hitters ever that I got used to was a guy by the name of Willie Horton, Tiger legend. And then we saw a lot of the other good designated hitters, I believe Edgar Martinez. And I understand, to me, that I've always been the type of guy that I love when a pitcher goes out there and hits for himself, okay, because he helps his own cause. You don't have that. This rule, though, was inevitable. I know that. The designated hitter was brought on initially with the intent to let a lot of position players who are really at the end of their line here not lose jobs because Father Time took over. So, Rick, with that said, okay, let's talk about the way baseball was, and then we're going to talk about the crux of what JB is talking about what are you looking at? What do you think of the current state of baseball, Rick, compared to where it was and where it's going?
When I would watch baseball, like in the early 90s, late 80s, and gosh, Tony Gwynn and Wade Boggs and, you know, all these great hitters you would see, you know, the stolen bases of Ricky Henderson and Vince Coleman, and, you know, the hit and run small ball, the Greg Maddoxes, who were like these scientists on the mound, you know, just the psychology of the game. And I totally agree with you, Scott. You know, it's just a glorified home run derby. These averages of like leading the league with a 310 batting average. Are you kidding me? I mean, that was an off year for like Tony Gwynn, you know, or, you know, having like 35 stolen bases to lead the majors, or all these strikeouts. And I could care less if Stanton or Judge hit a 500-foot. Who cares? I could care less about that. It's still one home run. So that's what I just hate about it. And it is hard to watch. It really is. And this whole analytics thing, to me, is ruining it. All this second guessing, like, no, let's do this strategically. And I think Cash and Dave Roberts use it way too much. And it's just overused. To me, it's just overrated. Just, you got to coach by your gut, you know, and these guys don't coach by their guts anymore. You know, it's all about science and about, you know, I mean, if a pitcher is red hot, you don't take him out of a perfect game. That's like a rule, an unwritten rule you just don't do. You know, you don't take someone like a Kershaw, who's like one of the greatest pitchers we've seen in our lifetime, throwing a perfect game, and you take him out because of analytics, you know, give me a break. I mean, just play the game. You play to win. Stop over-analyzing everything. And just teach players to do small ball, hit, run, steal. That's what baseball's about, not these 500-foot who cares home runs.
You know, JB, I think some of the things that are interesting as we continue this discussion is what Rick talks about is, yeah, I don't believe that you take a guy out pitching a perfect game. And and we've talked about on previous shows, Rick, that to me, a no-hitter is legitimate only when one guy completes the whole game. I don't care about the team stat. So if you talk about what am I looking at? Well, I'm looking at some disturbing things that we're a far cry from when I was brought up. Number one rule, I don't believe that you take out a guy throwing a no-hitter or a perfect game until he can no longer do it or the no-hitter is broken up. So what am I looking at? That's one thing I don't like. Two, the shifts, okay, the illegal, although they're going to get rid of them next year. That to me is, if a guy can't hit the other way, shame on him. So then you wonder where the fundamentals lie. Do you have enough good coaches in your minor league system to be able to get guys to hit the other way? That's another story. You follow me, JB? So then, but the biggest thing I don't like, and I don't know why they even went back to it, I understand they're trying to shorten games, is that ghost runner on second. To me, absolutely makes me sick to my stomach. You could do a lot of things with the game, but the ghost runner, and their Doubleday would turn over in his grave if he saw anything like that. And the pitch clock, okay, 14, 19 seconds, I don't care. You know what I mean? I don't have a problem with the mound visits being limited to maybe 4 or 5 a game. That isn't a big deal. It really isn't. I don't have a problem with the intentional walks, saying save the 4 pitches, okay, just let them go. It doesn't matter. You know, so I have no problem with those little minor changes because they aren't that big of a deal. They really aren't. But when you start to mess around with the purity of the game, then I do present issues there. You know, again, what am I going to tell you? How many times do I have to say in this broadcast, okay, about the no-hitters? Don't pull a guy out during the – and that's where people get a little bit agitated, you know, the pitch clock. And again, we talked about the 3-batter rule. Who the heck cares? When we were actually growing up, okay, Rick, how many times did you see relievers go 2 or 3 innings at a time? So what's 3 stinking batters? Who cares? That should be the norm. So some of the changes I don't have a problem with, but the majority of what they're trying to do, they always say don't reinvent the wheel too much. And I think in sometimes baseball has overanalyzed what it's doing. I understand they're trying to captivate the younger audience. I get it. But there's a fine line about where you go. All right, JP, pick it up from there.
So just a perfect example about guys that can't hit. The Pirates against the Marlins tonight, their starting lineup, not one person above 250. 4 guys hitting under 200. 4 guys in a 9-person lineup that are under 200. This is a major league team. Are you kidding me? Like, seriously. And the 3-batter rule is ridiculous. If you're the manager of the team, your job is dependent on you deciding who pitches where. If you want to put a different pitcher in, a lefty-righty, that's your job. Why should I have to worry about 3 batters? Yes, listen, every pitcher should be able to get through 27 outs. I don't doubt that. But if I'm the manager and I don't want him out there, I should be able to pull him. Ghost runner? Why don't we just play with 1 outfielder, no catcher? You know, if the guy doesn't hit it, it'll just be a wild pitch. The umpire has to stand in the batter's eye in center field and pull balls and strikes. Let's just make up any rule we want. You know,
well,
where does it end?
I'm glad you brought that up because we got a guy in the chat by the name of Nathan Brackett. Okay, this is pretty interesting. You want to mess around with the Canadian Football League, how you have 3 downs versus 4. But here, I'm going to throw this at you. Nathan, thank you very much for chiming in. We appreciate you watching. He's talking about have 2 strikes instead of 3. My goodness, you know what? Everything else is so crazy out there. You might as well have 2 strikes instead of 3. So, Nathan, thanks for bringing it up. I'll let the crew go ahead and comment. I don't think I'd go that far because then you're really messing with it.
Why even have strikes? 1 pitch. We can make the game really quick. 1 pitch, that's it. If it's a ball, you get a walk. If it's a strike, you're out. And if you hit the ball, whatever. You know, we can play automatics. Remember, like when you used to play when you were a kid, you know, you play automatics because you didn't have enough guys to field. Right. You know, make the game really quick. Everything will be automatic. Let's just change everything. It's stupidity.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so. But, yeah, I mean, it does make it interesting 2 strikes instead of 3. I don't think it'll ever happen. Let's face it. Nobody would even consider such a thing. But you know what? We're talking about
Rob Manfred. With Rob Manfred, you never know. I mean, the only guy that's smiling when there's going to be a lockout, so maybe.
That's true. I mean, but you know what? Hey, listen, this is a show where we hope a lot of people are going to provide us with some information that I can bring it up in the chat room. And I like it when people are off the wall. They come up with different stuff. And this is just really good dialogue. But no, 2 strikes instead of 3, I don't think that'll ever happen. Then again, you never know. I never thought I'd ever see a ghost runner on second base too. And you know what? I don't like watching minor league games anyways. But again, we all know full well that they happen to be the testing ground for all the different things, whether it's robot umpires, pitch clocks, and whatnot. So it's something that people have to really think about when you talk about the game itself. And Major League, I think that anybody that thinks that they're going to go with robot umpires and they really are serious about this, oh gosh,
horrible idea.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I watched the Dodgers Cub game Sunday. I don't know who was umpiring first base, but you have one job, to call a guy safe or out. The ball's fair or foul. I get if it's a close play, and that kind of was great when it's a close play. If you're right, you're right. I mean, he missed a call by about a step and a half. He called the guy out and it was safe, or vice versa. Foul ball that was clearly foul, he called it fair. I mean, good job. I don't get it. I can live with close calls and umpires being consistent with the strike zone. Some guys like the inside strike. Some umpires will call a high strike, and they call it that way all game, and that's fine. I can live with that. But when you got these umpires that are just so off, I don't know. Baseball's in trouble.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. I remember when Armando Galarraga lost that perfect game, and and then he had that actually forced their hand to go out there and get instant replay. I think they only had used it in two places. So was it mainly foul balls and home run calls? But then they had no choice but to go ahead and bring it in. I mean, and to this day, I still can't believe that over the course of time that there comes a point where I know it's hard to change history, but I still think Armando Galarraga should have had that perfect game, and so does everybody in this whole world. And I know Jim Joyce was apologetic. He felt bad about it. But you know what? To me, that's still no excuse. You have the technology. You use it. You have to maximize every resource that you have. So with that said, we all know that baseball, obviously, we wonder what we're looking at. So let's play a game of hypothetical, okay? And we know we could play a game of hypothetical. Item number one, JB, how do you think Billy Martin would handle managing in these times?
I think he'd probably get thrown out a lot more than what he does right now. What he did when he was managing before he passed away. I mean, these rules are absurd. The umpires are absurd. I just don't get it.
Okay, I'll give you another name, and Rick, remember the names because I'm coming back to you with it. Okay, I have a Sparky Anderson, another big manager of the past. How do you think he would acclimate to this?
He would probably resign. I think he would resign.
He was a smart guy. I think he was probably one of the best managers that I've ever seen in my lifetime. Not that Billy was bad, but I think Sparky would have found a way to win with the system. And he could got to have his guys bunting and hitting the other way.
Okay, so we got Sparky. Well, Earl Weaver.
He'd be with Billy.
What's that?
Him and Billy would be at the bar if they were playing each other, Yankees against the Orioles. By the third inning, they'd both be on the bar on River Avenue having some beers.
Okay, and the last one I want to bring up in this whole thing that I really actually feel I have to bring up is Bobby Cox. Well, I have one more, but who wants to comment on that?
I think Bobby Cox. I think he would try to find a way. To me, he was a manager's player. I think he would, but he was so old school. I mean, he hated the instant replay, even though we probably needed. But he was so old school. But I think a lot of these managers you brought up, they probably would resign and say, "I can't do this. This is ridiculous. This is a joke. These young players are getting paid millions of dollars. They don't want to listen." We're seeing what's going on with Tony La Russa.
Right.
An old school manager trying to adapt to the new, and I think his whole ball club is completely just tone deaf to him now. And that's why I think he'll resign.
One last one I want to throw out there. I have to is Tommy Lasorda.
Man, that's a great question.
Yeah,
I try to ask great questions.
I think he would just do the best he can do, and I think he eventually would just say, "You know what? I can't do this anymore. This game, it's going in the complete opposite direction." And when I was the manager first time, baseball was the number one sport. Now we're like number 3. And people are tuning out to us, and I think it's like I can't compete with this new age of baseball, and I just think a lot of them would just retire and go away.
Well, I will tell you this, and I work with a guy, Don Mattingly. He's done an unbelievable job acclimating. He's the most laid back, knowledgeable guy I've ever worked with, and I've worked with a lot of good ones. I'm not knocking the Jim Lelands. I'm not knocking the Sparky Andersons, Lasorda by any means. So this is no criticism at all. But I work with Don Mattingly, and with him having played the game as long as he's played, managing. We're gonna be releasing a Fire Up Florida about Tommy Hutton, so folks be looking for it out there. But Don Mattingly to me is one. Tommy Hutton talks about a lot of things about Don Mattingly managing in this area. If you can't play for Mattingly, you can't play for anybody at all. So there's a lot of. I guess the bottom line is, all right. So JB, of all the things that they've done, and then I'll ask JB first, and I'll talk to you, Rick, so we have some. Of all the changes that have been made, JB, let's try to take a positive twist on this if we can do it. All right.
I want to hear this one, how we're doing this.
I don't know. How? Well, because we're searching for a miracle. Okay. Are there any positive twists? So, all the new rule changes that they've had, okay, we know 7-inning doubleheaders are gone. Okay. Which ones do you actually like? Well, I have a feeling that he doesn't like any of them.
I mean, if you said which one am I willing to live with?
Oh, okay. I guess if that's going to get an answer out of you, what you're willing to live with, because we already know that you don't like it.
I would deal with the three batter for the pitcher. That's the only one out of all of them that I can actually accept. If we had to live with it, I can live with that one.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, what about you, Rick?
I think the intentional walk, where he had to pitch out for 4 balls, and now they let him just take the base. That's a good one, because it's kind of like, what's the point of throwing 4 balls, to the side when you're going to intentionally walk them? So that's probably the only rule. And actually, the pitch clock. I actually went to a Knights game. They had the pitch clock, and I really didn't notice it. It really wasn't that bad, and I understand why they do it. So I would say the intentional walk and the pitch clock are 2 of the ones that I can see in Major League Baseball, and I would have a problem with those.
Well, okay. Well, those are both good opinions. I'm with you, JB. Okay, the 3-batter minimum doesn't mean nothing. The intentional walk, I've got no problem with. Actually, I don't even mind the universal designated hitter anymore. I really don't. I don't mind it. I didn't say I liked it. Remember this, JB. I said I don't mind it. The difference between saying I don't mind it and like it. Just remember that. Okay.
I'll die on the hill for the DH rule. Listen. The AL had it. I'm willing to accept it in the AL. But you know what? As a Yankee fan, I love watching National League games. I love the psychology of trying to think as the manager. That's what made baseball the greatest game to watch.
Right.
It's you sit there and watch a 6th inning, and you would say, what's Bobby Cox going to do in this situation? Is he going to pitch hit for him? Is he going to let the pitcher bat when they need to score a run? They're going to do a double switch. He's got, that guy on the bench. He can put him in. You got to actually think. The DH takes away thinking. I just don't like it.
Well, that's okay. I bet you knew it was inevitable anyhow, so at least you had a chance to prepare for it. But the 3-batter minimum, I really like. I've been all for it. The intentional walk isn't really a big deal. And even though I went to a game where the pitch clock was in play, I don't know. I still struggle with it anyhow. And to me, those are the 2 that I think stand out in my mind. And as far as the Ghost Runner, get rid of it. Gosh, please get rid of it.
You know what? There's a way to fix the Ghost Runner thing. If you really want to keep that, if that's your thing, go to a point system. If you get to extra innings, do it like hockey. What hockey does, overtime wins, and you get a point if you made it to overtime. Because what's going to happen is you're going to cost the team a wild card, because now we have 85 million wild cards, so everybody's to play till the end of the season, except for the Cubs Pirates. Go to a point system. So if you get extra innings, the team doesn't care if they win. Like, for example, the Yankees or Dodgers, winning that game means absolutely nothing. But it may mean something for Toronto or the Phillies. We're fighting for that wild card. Go to a point system. So we can get to extra innings, you have a shot. and you got something for it, so you don't automatically lose.
Well, here's another thing I don't like about the ghost runner. Okay, I hate what it does to the relief pitcher that has to walk in there and can get a loss that he shouldn't get. You talk about a cheap loss. My goodness, I walked into a situation where I got a man on second already, and all it takes here is for somebody to drive him when you got 360 feet, around from one base to the other. Will goes to 180 or whatever the math is, So, you're talking about statistics already that can be tarnished because of something. I mean, it's just the way the game is, so there's nothing you can do about it. All the relievers know about it, but again, I'm going to reiterate what I said all along: the 3-batter minimum and the intentional walk is all right. I would still struggle with a pitch clock in terms of the challenge system. Maybe over robot umpires. If it's working in the Florida State League, although the Florida State League is considered low ball, then it used to be Advanced A. It doesn't matter, to me, but leave the robot umpires the heck out of it. Rick, you said you weren't too crazy about it anyways, right?
Yeah, I saw in the Atlantic League. The Atlantic League kind of is like a guinea pig for MLB, and they use these crazy rules. They did the ghost runners and all that stuff. And I went to a game where they actually, and it's not like a robot. What it is that the umpire has like an earpiece and it's connected to a computer up somewhere like in the press box, and the computer tells the person, that's really a ball. This is technically a strike. They feed it to the umpire. The umpire gets it in his ear, and then that's how he calls it. And it's like a pause too. It's like there's the pitch, and it's like a strike one, And I didn't even know what was going on, because I thought, God, this umpire is terrible, because the strikes and balls were so inconsistent, and it wasn't him. It was a stupid computer telling them what's a ball and a strike, and it just takes away from the game. And they got rid of it in the Atlantic League, and I went back, and it's a lot better now. So, I mean, there's some things that need to be with humans instead of all this technology, and that's one of them. And I hate the robot umpire. I hate banning the shift, for one thing. I think the most idiotic thing. You're going to award so a guy is a good hitter, you're going to punish him because the other team stinks, or they can't get him out, so you're going to punish the guy. Like Fred Lynn said, they used a shift on Ted Williams, and he hit 406. So I mean, it's it's just awarding bad play, and that's what is going on. It's just all these. If you're not a very good hitter and you strike out too much, let's make it easier for you and all this stuff. And that's what I hate what's happening in not only in baseball but in sports general. It's so watered down now. I see all the sports watered down.
Well, the thing that people have to understand is you have all these robot umpires. How do you monitor, JB, a robot umpire saying a ball's in the dirt? I'd like to see how a little keyboard will tell me about a piece of dirt called agriculture, okay? And a guy can't stop the ball, and he can't. I mean, give me a break. I mean, that just is weird.
Listen, what is wrong with if umpires are bad, training and getting new umpires? We can't officiate games. People can't hold games. I mean, we've had umpires for how many years? They've only gotten worse. But they have umpiring schools. You got to learn how to be an umpire. What's so difficult? We need a computer to do that for. Stupidity.
Yeah, it's just gimmicks. That's to me what they are. They're just a bunch of gimmicks, because they're trying to attract the young people. And because they're not going to the games because the games are so they're doing all these gimmicky things like 7 innings, robot umpires, ghost runners. I've heard that they might want to do a home run derby so they wouldn't have extra innings, all to appeal to the younger people who are just totally, abandon the game, and it's just, and that's basically baseball's fault, for ignoring the younger people, or even African Americans. A lot of them are not even playing baseball anymore. They're playing football and basketball now. And they're, you don't see that anymore. And when I was watching football, Tony Gwynn and, all these great African American players, I would see all the time. And you just don't see it anymore. Most of them come from like Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic. But I mean, I miss the Tony Gwynns and the Dave Parkers, the Willie Stargels. I mean, it's just you're just not seeing that anymore.
Yeah, I had a great conversation with Scoop Jackson about that about a year and a half ago, and he in his book he goes through that, and definitely if you haven't read Scoop's books, great writer, but Baseball is just in a tailspin. It's going down. Right now, I was so excited when Toronto pulled up all the young kids that they had. Tatis came up with the Padres. Baseball has so many great young players right now. This should be everybody in the world should know who all these guys are. Everybody should be watching. But they don't promote guys. Their promotion is horrible.
Okay, you brought that up, and Rick and I talked about it last night. Okay, so now you get your opportunity, JB, to mention this. All right. First of all, I think part of the problem they have with young people is they have all their electronic devices, anyways, and they're distracted when they do get to a game. And you never had that when we were growing up going to a game to begin with. Okay, even us guys in the press box have portable phones, which we can do a lot more to find up information. That's another story. So the technology play into it a little bit. Yeah, a young person can't keep their attention anyways when they're at the game. And why didn't you have nets up there to protect people from foul balls? Because nobody's paying attention to what they're doing. So you got nets there to protect them because they're not watching what they're going to do. All right, so, and again, we're not going to fix baseball in a 40-minute show. There's no way. We're just trying to bring some of the things that we don't like about it, and hopefully there are some solutions down the line. TBD will probably adjust down the line. But anyways, JB, Rick and I talked about it last night, and I realized that baseball does not do a very good job marketing its stars. What will it take, JB Ellis, okay, for baseball to go out there and market its stars better? Okay, Shohei Ohtani's and Mike Trout's don't go on trees, okay? Albert Pujols and Miguel Cabrera, they're going away. And then you have a different generation, whether it's Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, the list goes on. So, okay, the floor is yours, JB. What will it take for Major League Baseball to do a better job marketing its stars?
Stop. First of all, stop with gimmicks. Stop adding teams to the playoffs. The wild card was fine with one or two teams. 3 teams, it's too many. Now everybody's going to make the playoffs. Everyone's in it all year. It's stupid. You need ESPN to buy in. Back in the day, there was nothing going on in the summer anyway. So ESPN used to have baseball on 6 nights a week. Now MLB has its own network. But, you need to have a buy-in from a partner like ESPN, which the NHL got with ESPN and TNT this year. So you're going to see the NHL starting to have a lot more promotion, and people are going to start to learn who hockey players are. And hockey's actually going to have a shot to overtake MLB if that partnership goes strong. You need also Nike to get involved. Nike, what it's done for the NBA, because of Jordan, the investment that they have in the players, that's been huge with the promotion. It's going to take a lot of different things. In the stadium, you have to find ways to keep the fans engaged. Baseball is a beautiful sport. It's a work of art. It's not for everybody. It's not the most exciting sport to watch for 3 hours. You're going to have an hour where you may be bored out of your mind if you're not a baseball fan. There's a lot of dead time in it. So the stadium's got to figure out a way to keep the fans interested, to keep you watching. TV's got to do the same thing. But it can be done. It's just a matter of the right partners buying in, the money going in the right area, and getting it done.
Well, I've always viewed baseball as the ultimate chess game anyways. If it was so easy to play, why do you think Michael Jordan played a couple of years and wised up?
But it's not anymore. Because now we have – but you got to pitch to 3 guys.
Right.
You're going to have a shift, and you don't know how to bunt anyway, so you don't have to think about anything. You're going to hit it right to the guy in, I don't know what position you want to call that, middle outfield, like it's softball. It's just we got a DH, so you don't think about who's going to pitch hit. There's no more chess in it. It's throw 9 guys out there, follow your analytics, and that's it.
Well, but JB, that's where we might differ on this, and it's okay for us to differ. There is a fair amount of chess when it comes to managers when they fill out the lineup cards, who does what in terms of how you prepare for a game, with the meetings in the rooms about who does what. And so the chess is really tied, JB, more so to the analytics, more so than what you do with the universal DH. But that's okay. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is this, okay? If baseball was so easy to play, why didn't Michael Jordan go ahead and being arguably one of the greatest athletes ever play the game, do what he did? I mean, Bo Jacksons don't grow out on trees, okay? We know Tim Tebow attempted to do it 10, 12 years later, although he was only brought in there to sell tickets at the minor league level. But beyond these guys, okay, if Michael Jordan couldn't make it in baseball because it is a mentally demanding sport. Remember this, folks, okay? If you succeed 30% of the time in Major League Baseball, batting 300, okay, you're considered a mega superstar. Think about it, a mega superstar if you're hitting 300, right? Makes sense, right, JB? 300 is a good average. 275 a day, 30, 40 home runs, 100 RBIs. I tell you what, you get paid 25, 30 million a year, and of course, now we take away the complete games, which is another story. I'm a firm believer that, you have too many setup guys there, too many relievers. Geez, right. Geez, folks, there's no reason why you can't go 8 or 9 innings anyhow. With Sandy Alcantara, the guy that I'm working with down here with the Miami Marlins. He likes to stretch him as much as he can, but there's nothing wrong with the complete game. Why? For this reason. Okay, the guy's pitching one every 4 or 5 days. Okay, so therefore you give the bullpen a rest. Okay, and then you keep the relievers fresh. So again, this is the kind of thing where you lose complete games. Roy Halladay was one of those guys who recently threw a lot of them. We also know Roy Oswalt in our time was one. Gone are the days where he had all our complete games back in the day that we were all brought up. So again, these are another aspects that I think are diminishing the popularity, taking away, as you mentioned earlier in the show, Rick, the no-hitters, going 7, 8, 9. Give me a break. You don't pull guys out for that. So, JB, I think the whole idea is when you decided to write what you did, and I think you wrote an outstanding story. And JB Ellis, by the way, is one of our new writing contributors here, and you can see his articles under the contributors' writings on the South Florida Tribune, is finding out that as you continue to piecemeal things like this, you're going to find out this is exactly, folks, how we piecemeal our ideas based on the written word. Guys like Mike Wilbon, Tony Kornheiser, Stephen A. Smith, those people began as writers. And once we're able to go out there and take those ideas and put them into words, this may seem a little off the wall a little bit, but I remember many years ago when I was in grade school, and I mean many years ago, I read the book Jaws, okay? And I'll tell you what, they made that into a movie. So again, the written word creates the visuals, and then at that point, it's our responsibility to paint the best picture that we can so that people can relate, whether they agree or disagree. But this is a type of subject that's going to be going on for a long time. More and more rule changes are. I guess it's a matter of the key words that you mentioned tonight, JB. What can we live with? And I think that at least you were able to isolate the one that you feel good about, the 3 batter minimum. Otherwise, I agree with you. A lot of them are take it or leave them. So any closing thoughts, JB, on the subject?
Listen, I really hope that they can find a way to fix baseball. Baseball, in the summer, there's not much to watch sports-wise. It's an exciting game. It makes you think. It's a great thing to watch. It brings people together. If you look at basketball and hockey, a lot smaller arenas. Baseball, you have 40, 50,000 people that come together to watch a game. And, hopefully they could fix the sport because it's so much better than what we're seeing right now.
All right, Rick, some closing thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with JB. They need to fix the game. These stadiums they're building now are smaller now. They used to be like 45,000. Now it's turning to 35,000. And I think what's hurting baseball is that the games used to be on prime time. I used to wake up Saturday mornings and watch it on NBC or ABC, and now it's on Fox Sports and all. Not everyone has cable. So now it's not on local television no more. It used to be on Fox or whatever. Or I used to watch them all the time before This Week in Baseball, and you don't see that anymore. It's always now you can stream them too and all this stuff. So they have a lot of work to do. I don't like all these gimmicks they're doing. I get it, but I don't like it. The Ghost Runner thing is awful. It's just trying to make it more exciting for younger people. And they're probably not gonna come back, because the baseball is a different animal compared to all these other sports. So they need to get their act together, fix it, see what they can do. And I think expanding. I'm a huge fan of expanding. If you put it in other markets that don't have like a Nashville, Charlotte, or like a Portland, where Nike's at, different fan base there. Maybe they'll get some excitement, some different areas for Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and the one thing we haven't brought up, and I'm glad you brought the expansion, I think next year they're going to a more balanced schedule, so you won't go out there and see every team play each other 18 times either. I thought the one of the changes they made many years ago that was good was interleague play. That's definitely helped. So as much as we can beat up on the game because it does have a few changes, interleague play was a great move. And I know that the designated hitter was a liability when one league had it, one didn't. That's why they have it universal. But I think interleague play was good. But again, when you start changing it too much, then I think there's a problem. And maybe the smaller stadium size of 35,000 aren't the worst thing because corporate suites are part of them anyway. So those are little minor things that with the game. But again, don't overthink it to a point where you're going to lose people, this and that. And because I'll tell you what, if the hypothetical thing that lockout had gone into this year, we wouldn't have had baseball. If you think baseball has problems now, it could have been a whole lot worse for sure. And at least labor didn't get involved. I didn't care about the 90-day hiatus of nothing going on except all of us getting out here content. But taking away from I do miss this week in baseball, Rick and JB. I really do. I mean, these are the type of things that, we all
Quick question for you. Because I had asked somebody about this a while ago. If they want to make a reboot of This Week in Baseball, because that would be huge for MLB, if they could actually do that. Mel Allen was iconic and phenomenal doing that for years. Who in today's age would be able to do it, in your opinion, and be that good at it? Or, I mean, don't want to be able to be that good, but that would be close to it.
If he would do it, the guy that I would actually think should do it, be surprised at the name, John Miller of the San Francisco Giants.
Great choice.
I would.
I didn't think of it. I would watch that.
First person I thought of, but he's up there in age already, would probably Bob Uecker, but he's up there in age.
Yeah, but I would go John Miller. Yeah,
but I like John Miller's great. I miss him on
that's
ESPN.
A great choice.
Him and Joe Morgan were fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
On Sunday Night Baseball, and ever since they left, I mean, they just gotten some random people on. I'm sorry, and the beauty and the magic with them was fantastic. It was like when they would do a game, they were like telling a story. They were like writers just telling a story about baseball. And now it's just a bunch of young people, and it's just I miss those two a lot.
Okay, so I'll give you two other alternatives. I don't think Bob Costa would be the right guy, but if you really want to bring somebody that could really liven it up, you ready for this, guys? I would bring on Chris Berman of ESPN as a backup.
Yeah.
Think about Chris
I
Berman.
I could see him doing that. He has the personality. I mean, Bob Miller was more the iconic voice, similar to Mel Allen, but Berman would make it fun. I can live with something like that. But, why MLB doesn't try to reboot that and get it on Fox or wherever? Just
every Saturday morning.
How great it was, watch the top 10 plays or, Twib notes. I used to watch that show every week. It was the best thing ever.
Well, you know what, JB? I'm glad you brought the question up. I think I'm going to go out there and put that on social media as a poll this week in baseball. And maybe we'll go out there and get
even up close with Roy Firestone when he would have the Major League Baseball should have like an up close kind of show where they just have like a guy, maybe like a Bob Costas or a Joe Buck or someone who can just interview baseball players one-on-one so fans can see the other side of them, the real side of them instead of seeing them batting or pitching.
I agree, but let's just get This Week in Baseball. Then, if we're lucky to graduate to those interviews, and we'll go there. Just bring back This Week in Baseball.
Man, you remember the baseball bunch with Johnny Bench?
Oh gosh, and the
Johnny
chicken.
Bench.
That was great.
They had Ozzie Smith on there one time. They had Sarahara O on there one time. I mean, stuff. It appealed to kids, and now they don't appeal to kids no more. I mean, they don't even go to the neighborhoods anymore to tell kids, "Hey, come and play baseball now." And they do. That's another terrible job they do. Is they don't appeal to the kids anymore, and it's just it's sad. And they shouldn't be surprised that they're number 3 and probably going to be number 4 soon. If I just think they were just I guess they just thought it would keep going and going and going, and generations have changed.
Well, again, this certainly is a subject we're going to talk about in future broadcasts, but I'm glad we able to bring it out in the foresight. But right now, I would be content if they brought This Week in Baseball, and anything else above and beyond that is gravy. So, again, smaller stadiums, the younger people being distracted, you name it, folks. We've uncovered this subject in a lot of different ways, and hopefully this is a topic that everybody will stimulate your mind, because this is exactly what it's done for the three of us. You know, JB, myself, and of course Rick Curti, Mr. Opinions. We were no shortage of opinions for sure. So just want to make sure before we wrap things up tonight, please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune on our YouTube channel by going to youtube.com and hit the subscribe button, nothing to it, or visit www.southfloridatribune.com and follow us on Twitter at Tribune South. To advertise, call 954-304-4941. The audio portion of the show can be heard on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And also, if you want to go ahead and send us some comments, whatever the case may be, feel free to go ahead and email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. So you can direct the comments to me, and I'll feed them over to Rick and JB, and then I'll bring them up on the next show and where they came from. So, meanwhile, guys, any final thoughts before we call her a night? JB?
I think I said it all. Read the article tomorrow, and if you have any comments, by all means, let me know.
All right. Well, with that said, we'll let you. You're not done with final thoughts, because you're gonna let everybody know how they get a hold of you.
So at Sideline Sports One, the network, at JB Ellis for the program is myself. Make sure you follow, subscribe to the YouTube. We got shows on 7 nights a week. George Jones, former NFL player, just joined. Dave Stevens from ESPN is on with Geary and Stein. Got 3 Chicks, which aired at 7:30 tonight. We got the Basket Bros on Sunday night with the old school basketball talk. And that's just a few of the shows we have. Make sure you're watching 7 nights a week.
And I had the good fortune of being on a couple of them last night, so I really enjoyed what we did last night. Hopefully we'll have other opportunities to be on your network. You have a good group of people, and I'm certainly, as I said, looking forward to doing more with you guys as time goes on. All right, Rick, we know what you do, but let everybody else know what you do. I should point out before you say anything, Rick Curti does an incredible job helping us on social media, and as do you, JB Ellis. I know you help make sure you get our content out, so I want to point that out and say thanks to you. All right, Rick, go take it away.
You can find me on my website at www.charlottebats.com. We have a petition on there as we're trying to bring Major League Baseball to Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm also on Facebook at Charlotte MLB, Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm on Instagram at Charlotte Bats, Twitter, Charlotte Bats Baseball, and I'm also on LinkedIn under Rick Curti, Curti. And if you have any comments or questions, you can email me at cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com.
And if you folks wonder why I like wearing this hat, King of the Road, because you know what? I love traveling, and I tell you what, the only way I can talk about ballparks and this great game of baseball, for which, by the way, I have covered for 42 years, and I played it for 6 years. If anybody wants to see baseball do well, it's me, because I have my whole lifetime invested, not only as a broadcaster, a writer, and a player, but I can understand the game in a lot of different ways. So I love baseball. I was brought up with it. I was brought up in a great sports town in Detroit. And obviously, we know that Detroit's a great market, and I'm just thankful that I can continue my career in baseball with the Miami Marlins, who have treated me extremely well. So, meanwhile, on behalf of Rick Curti and JB Ellis, my name is Scott Morganroth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange, and we look forward to catching you on the next episode. Take care, everybody, and have yourself a great night, and be safe. God bless everybody. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night, guys.